This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have an incredible guest. He is fearless when it comes to taking on fantasy football Reddit communities, and many experts would consider him to be more passionate about the tight end position than even Taylor Swift is right now. So you've heard him on Sirius XM, you've heard him on Bettor Network. He is lead analyst at Fantasy Alarm. It's Andrew Cooper. Welcome in, my friend.
What's up, my dude? Thank you so much for having me, man. I love the show format, and I'm glad to be on here, man, just to talk about the industry in general, talk about everything. So very cool, man. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you here, man. Happy to have you on. Obviously, your recent girl dad. How's everything going in fatherhood?
It's going, man. I mean, here's the thing that they don't tell you. Like, everyone's like, oh, we had our first baby and she was good, and the second baby was bad. What they don't tell you is that they're all bad. Like they all have to wake up every 2-3 hours to eat, no matter what. Like, there's no baby that just sleeps through the night. So we're finally getting to the point where she's sleeping a little better. So it's I feel like I've been swinging with the weighted bat lately, and now it's just now I'm swinging for the fences. So it's all good, man. I'm loving it.
Perfect timing, right as the season kicks off, right?
I know, man. I know. And the thing was, like, her birthday is now like right where the expo is every year. Mike Fiella was like, you didn't have a calendar on your honeymoon, buddy. And I was like, come on now, you can't.
Well, obviously that's going to be an obstacle each and every year because people want you there. It was awesome because you're probably not going to make it, and then all of a sudden you showed up, and that was awesome. But I guess we got challenges ahead of us, don't we?
I know. We'll figure it out, dude. We'll figure it out.
Well, let's rewind back, obviously, a few years. I imagine you're a big sports fan growing up in Massachusetts. What was that like? What's your backstory with your love and passion for sports and football?
Yeah, so I grew up at the time, like, my timing could have been a little better, right? Like, I grew up as a New England sports fan, which obviously has been great. But when I was a kid, I experienced all the heartache, right? So I had just started figuring out what was going on and actually knowing what was going on when, like, Nomar Garciaparra got traded and the Patriots lost to the Packers in the Super Bowl, right? And I just named my cat Curtis Martin. He got traded. So, like, when I was a kid and I first started, it was all heartbreak. And in fact, like, people forget because of all the success, but the Patriots for a long time were a brutal team and also had a just ridiculous fan base. They were banned from Monday Night Football for a period of time because of how rowdy they had a game called they call it like the Monday Night Massacre, where the fans were just ridiculous. Everybody's getting arrested. So as a kid, I really wasn't even like allowed to go to games, right, until I was older. And then in 2000, everything changed. Curse was lifted. I grew up with a 112-year curse or whatever, for the Red Sox. They started winning. Patriots obviously started winning. Celtics won. Bruins won. So since then, it's been awesome. But when I was very young, I did have to experience the brutal teams for a bit. So, it just made it that much better.
Yeah, I would imagine that obviously makes it it's kind of something you gotta go through to appreciate the good times, right? I mean, I'm a Seattle guy. I've had the Mariners just been, breaking our hearts. I mean, in fact, now the expectations are so low. It's like, it is what it is. Every year is the same. But, we always get these little hope there. Obviously, we got Julio. Things are exciting there. But I've experienced a lot of issues. I got the Sonics were stolen from us.
Yeah, right. Dude, they were sick too, man. I used to love playing as them in NBA Jam, like Sean Kemp and
So Sean Kemp and Gary Payton and that whole team, Deadlift Shrimp. I mean, they were a good squad. So that was fun to be around.
That guy Mason, I remember a guy named Mason.
Yeah. Obviously I had Ken Griffey Jr. So I've had some good things, but the success that you've probably witnessed in Massachusetts is pretty special. And again, having gone through what you went through, I'm sure you can appreciate it quite a bit more.
For sure.
So when did you first discover fantasy sports?
Yeah, so that was 6th grade. A buddy of mine came to me. He's like, we're doing fantasy football. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't want to do that. And, it ended up being that he was like, look, I will make you an account on Yahoo. I will set everything up and then you just play. And I was like, all right, fine. So he made my account. he named my team the Wild Thornberries, and my team has been named the Wild Thornberries ever since. So I have going on 23, 24-year-old fantasy team that is still called the Wild Thornberries. And the Wild Thornberries are taking it down a couple times. The Two Berries are still riding. Two Berries are in first place right now. So
I think that's so cool. I mean,
yeah.
that's what it's all about. I love the tradition like that. And you got a logo for your squad?
Oh yeah. We got it all. I mean,
Nice.
this league is like this is my hometown league, the big hometown league. And that's the
Yeah.
thing about fantasy is like you and I mean, how many leagues are you in, bro? We're in a
I
million
mean,
leagues, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Like you and I do a bunch of competitions together. We're Scott Fish Bowl, Baby Bowl, things like that. And even then, the most important league to me will always be the lag. This league, my hometown league. Shout out to the boys. So no different than anybody else out there.
That's what it's all about for sure. I mean, that's where my passion comes from is that home league experience, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we get going. So, when did you first start creating content for fantasy?
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned it with Reddit. So I just liked talking about football. So I would go on the subreddit and I would just write comments, this or that. And eventually, what people would do is they'd say, I'd write this like big long comment, and they'd be like, "This should be its own post." Right. So then I started, whenever I thought of something in the comments, instead I would make it its own post. Right. And I started doing that. And after a while, I was talking to, I knew people in the industry, Joey Cardilano, John and Pemba, and I like showed him that. And he was like, dude, he's like, we'll find you somewhere. Right. And he was at Fantasy Alarm. You don't just start working at Fantasy Alarm. So he found me another site to work on. And then coming up in the next year, a guy from Fantasy Alarm, he got an offer he couldn't refuse to go work for TaylorMade, and basically he had to quit then and there. And on the spot, they were like, "We need somebody right now. Can you write right now?" And I kind of got in that way where it was like, I wrote for free. I went and wrote for a site called Fantasy Degens for free, and it just so happened that the timing worked out where it was like, we need somebody today, and I was like, I'm here today. So, and I started off right. I was like, whatever you want me to do. This goes out to anybody out there that wants to get in the industry. Whatever they say, like, make yourself available. I wrote about rookies when I didn't even play Dynasty at the time, right? I just did all the research. I wrote about closers for fantasy baseball. I wrote about holds, fantasy baseball leagues, right? Just whatever they wanted me to do. And from that point, I was just a guy that was available for everything. And eventually it got to the point where my content was good enough that I could do what I wanted. And they just, at this point now, they say, hey, whatever you want to do it, get it up, and we'll post it. So that's the thing. You can't. There's no real just like jumping right in. You got to make sure you can wear a lot of hats.
Well, you've certainly been dedicated, put in so much hard work and grinded so much over the years. Obviously, it's been cool to see. Now, the Reddit world. I mean, a lot of people just are afraid to go there, right? Personally, I just never. I guess time wise just haven't went that direction. And I always hear people talking about like you just stay away from that place because it's scary. But it fits you. I can see you just being fearless and diving right in there. And it sounds like it's been a good experience for you.
Yeah. So the thing is, the way I look at it is, if you're going to create content, you got to love your platform. So the people that succeed at YouTube, at Instagram, at, I don't know, LinkedIn, whatever, like you got to love whatever you're going to be on, right? TikTok. Like, so for me, the three are really Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit. Now, to the way I explain Reddit to people, where that kind of explains why people are scared of it, is picture who's your favorite band? Okay,
Oh man, I mean,
name a
yeah, I
band.
like. Let's just go with Taylor Swift right now.
Taylor Swift, right? Okay, so Taylor Swift. Like if you're Taylor Swift and you have a Taylor Swift concert that's just you, that's what Twitter's like. The people that follow you on Twitter already decided that they like you enough to follow you, or they follow you to hate you, but they usually like you enough to follow you. So Taylor Swift does a concert and it's all her fans, going to be great reception. Now, if Taylor Swift goes and does Bonnaroo or Coachella, well, now it's not only her fans. In fact, some of the people there might not be fans of her, might not even know who she is. I mean, just about everybody does. But if you're a smaller band and you go to a festival like that, you better be good. You better bring the heat, because they aren't there to see you. They might not even know who you are. And that's what's like posting on Reddit. the people that are there, it's all anonymous accounts. They don't care who I am. Even now, like there's a couple people, that recognize my username and stuff, but even now they look at it and they say all they care about is what the content is. It's all borderline anonymous. So and the beauty of that is you get great feedback. It's made me a much better writer because I think about what is somebody going to say when they see this and they don't know who I am and they don't know what I do and how do I present it. So it does help a lot. I would suggest to people, if you're a writer, give it a try. I mean, but they will kill you. So be careful.
That's good. That's good. That's a great analogy. It's funny that I bring up Taylor Swift. My daughter turns 11 tomorrow, which is essentially when this is going to get posted. She's all jacked up. Well, I'm excited with her for
Happy birthday.
1989, right?
Yes,
Coming out.
yes.
So, Taylor Swift's on the mind, obviously in the NFL. So that was a great analogy.
Yeah.
What has your experience been like with Fantasy Alarm?
I mean, it's been great because the thing is, John and Pemba and Howard Bender are two of the hardest working, no nonsense people out there. And they set the standard so high that you have no choice but to perform at a high level and provide high level content and answer the questions when they're asked you, because they really do put the listeners and the readers first over everything all the time. Right. So that's a big part of what we do. And it's what made me the guy that I am now, because there's different kinds of people out there, people that just care about followers or just care about cloud or just care about this. And the only thing we care about is people winning their fantasy leagues. And when they post, that they spent $150 on DFS and won $4,000 in our Discord, and we can post that on our Twitter, that's when we get paid back. That's when we can say, hey, by the way, we put in all this work and look at what our guys are doing, right? These people are paying, $20 a month, and this guy's membership is paid for forever for one weekend, right? So it's a beautiful thing, man. So Fantasy Alarm, that's why I'm loyal. Since I've come up, this is the only place I've worked in for the only place I really want to work, baby.
I love it. Now, obviously, great mentors. Howard, definitely one of my favorite people out there. Just such a good guy. But yeah, definitely, driven, hardworking man for sure.
Right.
So
he's crazy, bro. It's like every day is a podathon for that guy. Yesterday he did I think he did shows for a stretch yesterday, 6 to 7 hours.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's Howard Bender. So cool that you get an opportunity to work with him. What's your experience been like with Bettor Network?
It's awesome, man, because these guys are some of the smartest people out there, especially Matt Deutsch, right? Like he's like he's like a cartoonish go-getter. Like he's like such a dreamer, man. And he worked for a long time for Sirius XM. Started with, then left there, took everything he learned there, and started Bettor Network here. And that guy, like I would follow him wherever, man, because he's like a dreamer that sees like what's here, right? Like we're all here, and he's looking right here. So I know great things are coming from Matt Deutsch, man. He's just such a good guy. So I love that, the whole crew, man, the whole squad.
That's great. That's great. Now, when did you discover your passion for the tight end position?
So oddly enough, I was working on a side project. So like I was doing a bunch of stuff, but on my own, I had this like spreadsheet, and I was actually trying to figure out a formula to get to a number grade for tight ends, right? And I sat down, thought about every single factor that could go into it. And I did find out through that process, there is no way to put a number to it. You end up trying to retroactively change things to make it work. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, it's the numbers plus feeling. So, but I had this giant spreadsheet, and that year we were kind of divvying up the positions, and they go to me, you're going to do the running backs this year. I was like, nice, cool. And I said, by the way, Howard was the original tight end whisperer to me. I sent the spreadsheet to him and John. And I said, oh, by the way, why don't you use this spreadsheet to do your tight end stuff? And they reached back out to me. They said, you're doing the tight end stuff now, right? They saw that spreadsheet, and they were like, you do this. They're like, we'll figure the rest out. They're like, you have to put this all in writing. So that was the first year I did it. And as luck would have it, in the article, like the yin and yang tight end article, we had Mark Andrews who broke out. We had Darren Waller who broke out. So then people started paying attention. So then each year I've been going back, using the same concepts, polishing them up and riding with it. And, just looking at some details that I think other people might overlook a bit. It's hard to do every single position. We all do it, right? But like my year starts with, okay, I'm gonna get this one thing right, and then we're gonna go from there.
Yeah. So talk to me about that process for evaluating the tight end position. How do you approach that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the reason it's so difficult is it's a two-pronged position, right? You have the meshing with the offensive line and and obviously the pass catching portion of it. And the thing is, every position is so different, right? At wide receiver, talent really does rise to the top. And you have three wide receivers on the field all the time. So the best ones are going to be good. At running back, it's talent plus you need a good offensive line. You need a good offense. Same thing. It's like quarterback talent is the number one thing because they drive the whole boat. With tight end, we've had very talented tight ends who just don't have the opportunity. I watched Delaney Walker. He didn't break out till he was 30 years old because he was behind Vernon Davis, who had the best tight end combine, arguably of all time, right? Probably of all time. Like that combine was ridiculous. So he sat there for years and years and was a blocking tight end before he got the opportunity. So what I do is I go in and I weigh the three most important things: talent, scheme, and opportunity. And when you have a guy like Travis Kelce, super talented, the scheme is designed around him, and he plays every snap, and he plays the vast majority of his snaps at wide receiver. He has the perfect combination of all three, whereas very few other guys have that, right? So we're looking for that scheme first and foremost at the top, and then at the bottom, at the top we ask why, and at the bottom we ask why not. Why can't Evan Engram be a top two target on this team? Why can't Logan Thomas, right? Why can't Dalton Schultz? Like, so it is a crazy position, man, and I spend a lot of time banging my head against the wall asking why this happens, why this doesn't happen. But usually by the end of the season, the important metrics win out. So that's the game.
It's gotta be fun and exciting too to see a tight end class like the one we got now coming into the league too, because it kind of obviously refreshes the hope for the tight end position being more relevant in fantasy, obviously.
We needed it. We needed it bad, right? So this class is great. And then we got Brock Bowers coming next year. I'm not huge in college football. Once it's clear they're coming to the league, I hone in. I go back and retroactively watch. And the Devy guys hate when I say this. If you really care about college football and scouting and stuff, you really should play Devy, because in Dynasty, I get the benefit of getting to wait for the draft to happen. And all the college production stats, those don't go anywhere. So they're all there after the draft, right? The tape's still there. So I have the luxury of waiting as a dynasty player. So, anybody out there, if you really love that portion of it, you should be playing Devy, get in some campus to Canton stuff. Do you play any of the Devy stuff? Any of the campus to Canton stuff?
I do not, but it's exciting.
It seems like
really
fun.
Cool.
It seems like fun.
I love the way people are passionate about that. And I try to tune in a little bit here and there to find out, some of the exciting things coming, but something I'd like to do more for sure.
Yeah, I think I want to get in one just to kind of see what it's all about, man. Maybe we'll get set up with one,
Hey, I like that.
We'll find other people like us that aren't like diehards, and we'll have our little noob. Yeah, the newbie
little
league.
junior league. Yeah. Those some great people over there. Obviously, they just part of that fantasy football community, fantasy sports community. I've met a lot of them at the expo. Tell me about your experience with the expo and the community and all the friendships that you've made over the years in the industry. Yeah.
You and I, we're cut from the same rug, dude. Like, I see you at the expo, dude, and it's just high fives and smiles all over the place, man. Which I truly do love the expo. It's just a chance to put names and faces and actually talk to people that you've argued with. Because the nature of this game, that's what people say. The fact that this community isn't more toxic is crazy, because of how the entire game is based on disagreement. If there were no disagreement, there wouldn't be a game to play, right? Like if we all knew the answers or we all agreed on everything, then we wouldn't have a game. So that's the beauty of this game, but it also leads to a lot of arguments. And the expo, just getting to know people on a personal level, you know what I mean? Like, there are so many times where people say, friends of mine, even in my real life that play fantasy and follow people on Twitter, and they're like, oh, that guy's a jerk. And I'm like, well, on Twitter, his takes can come off as aggressive or whatever, but if you ever met him and had a beer with him, then you would realize that you guys have more in common than you have differences, right? And that's the beauty of the expo, right? So yeah, it's an absolute blast. Although this year, I will say I think I might have been overserved at Jose's Landing. What do you think, dude? I was.
I might have some footage of some karaoke performances of you. So
I
it's
was
possible.
on another level. I was on another level, man. But that's the thing was, it's like I like I said, just had my daughter. My wife was good enough to let me go, and I was like, you know what, I'm going all out this weekend. So it was a blast.
Good times. And FSGA, I think we had a good time this last winter conference. Looking forward to this next one too. So
my advice to the fans would be go to the expo. FSGA is more industry. It's more like even guys like you and I there as like content creators. It's even not necessarily for us, right? A little more now than usual. And there's definitely the content. If you want to be a content creator, go. But if you're a fan and you just want to hang out and meet everybody, the expo's for you, right?
Expo's where it's at.
Yeah,
Bob Lung does an incredible job. There's so many, events every single day. Capping it off with Jose's Landing is always a fun one for sure. And I think when I first met you in person, I was standing with Nate Hamilton, and he's like, Andrew's my guy, like from back in the day. So it's just so cool to see worlds collide and see people come alive from the Twitter Xverse. So it's been fun. Definitely something highly recommended.
For sure.
Let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll throw out some questions. Let me know what comes to mind. What do you love most about fantasy football? I know you talked about it a little bit when it comes to that league experience, but can you expand on that?
I mean, that's a big part of it, and it's the connectivity. It's the connectivity of like, to be honest, there are friends of mine from high school that I wouldn't see nearly as often, but I see them now every year. And it's like with this league, the lag, it's almost like tradition to invite all the guys from the league to your wedding and stuff. So it's like we always see those guys. And same thing with I have friends now that I talk to on the internet, on Twitter, in group chats more than I talk to some people, that live down the street, because we have these things in common. And when I get to see them at the expo once a year, it's amazing. But it's just like the connectivity of being able to connect with like-minded people. And like when it comes to the quote unquote industry, I still say that there's a ton of people that don't create content that I consider to be huge parts of this industry. And the fans out there, I don't even like the term fans. Like if you are tweeting about football, even just responding, you're part of the industry to me. Toronto Dave, Mr. Scampers, all the way down the line. Like, if you're engaging with me on Twitter, you're not a fan. We're part of a discussion to help everybody get better at football. End of story. You're part of the industry.
Yeah, that's why it's called a community, right? Everybody who's out there, obsessed with fantasy. We're all the same, right?
For sure.
What would you say to people that want to throw out the tight end position, in a fantasy league?
Just it's a cowardly move. I will say this: if you're in a very deep league with like 18 spots, whatever, it's like you can't do super flex if you have 18 teams, right? If you have 18 teams, because that doesn't work. So in that case, go ahead, do wide receiver / tight end spot if it really makes sense. But watering down the game, removing defense, removing kicker, removing tight end, it honestly is a move for casuals. You think that maybe in your mind you're saying, oh well, I'm going to make it so that the guys who are smarter or whatever win, because it's just running backs and wide receivers. That's actually making it easier. It's making your league more casual, and it's giving you less of an advantage. If you actually care enough to think about tight end and kicker and defense and what makes those positions pop or not, and how to utilize those positions, even dropping your kicker to stash somebody, that makes you a more high level fantasy gamer. So go ahead and remove the tight end spot if you are just a casual gamer and you want to make it easier on yourself. That's fine too, but real fantasy football players use those positions. And that's why every single high stakes league has a tight end. In fact, they're tight end premium. If they want to go that route, they go that route. But no serious fantasy gamers removing the tight end position. That's silly.
I love that take. That's good. That's really good. It makes me think about things. I've definitely played in a lot of leagues that have no kickers and eliminating defenses and that kind of stuff. So I like that. I like
Shout
that.
out
Now what
Linda. Shout out Linda. I gotta defend the wall for my
I
girl Linda in the kicker
I love
position.
it.
Hey,
That's good. Kickers matter.
they do.
What are your thoughts on tight end premium? Do you love that format?
So to me, and this is like the best kept secret, is that it doesn't, when you play a league like that, especially when you play the people that haven't played for the first time and they hear tight end premium, they overdo it. They overdo it. It doesn't move the needle as much as you think, because everyone's still starting at tight end and they're just getting a few more points. And the number of tight ends that now become eligible at the flex, it's maybe what, 3 or 4 more players now. It's, instead of the top 12, which everyone has to start 12, it's now the top 15 or 16 tight ends that are relevant. So the amount that it moves the needle, it is definitely misrepresented, and we take advantage of that for sure.
Good stuff. How about interest outside of fantasy sports and whatnot? Do you have any hobbies, interests that are passionate for you?
Yeah, I do, man. Like, I've been getting back into video games a little bit, but I'm into a lot of the stuff. Like when you're my age, I feel like, and you've especially become a dad, like things like just flip over, and now you're just into all the stuff that like dads are supposed to be into. So one thing yeah, like all of a sudden I'm into like watches and like flashlights. One thing I do like doing is, and since I left my job in finance and now I just do fantasy football, I don't have as much opportunity for it, but I like I used to go to these thrift stores around me and find shoes, like really nice shoes that people got rid of, and I fix them. And I have like
Ooh,
all the kit to like polish them up. I can't do soles. I got a guy for that changes like the soles if they're all messed up, but I do everything else. So that's another fun little thing that I do. I mean, I'm into a lot of, and that's the thing. But with my personality is, once I get into something, I get like way into it, and just like uh and come I with hobbies, I go to them, I come back to them, but I like to get into something and get set up, and then I have it, like right now, like I was like, researching flashlights, and now I have all these sick flashlights. Now I'm good. Now I was set on flashlights forever, so that's kind of the way I am. What about you, man? What are some hobbies you got?
oh gosh, I mean, my time, family, obviously family. So
Of course.
travel, all that kind of stuff is huge. We loved it, every with my schedule and whatnot, it's tricky sometimes getting away for a long time. So we do a lot of, short trips.
Right,
So
right.
travel for sure. I'd love to say I'm a golfer, but I don't play enough, but
Yeah.
I'd love to golf more. I was gonna say, just with your response to that's living life right there. You're all in, 100%. That's cool the way you tackle your
Yeah.
interests. And I
I
think,
can't wait
I
till
see.
my kids are, like you said, 11. I can't wait till my kids are old enough for me to like go and do something, and where they appreciate it. Like I got, I'm just keep asking. I'm like, how old is old enough to go to Disney? Like
Yeah. Oh,
when can we go? Right. So like people keep asking me how old she is, and I think,
yeah.
okay, week 8 plus 4,
Yeah, it's Expo,
12,
right?
12 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Week 8 plus 4. It's whatever week NFL week it is plus 4. That's the number. So coming up on 12 this weekend.
Yeah, no, you have so much to look forward to.
Yeah.
Again, our daughters are our world when it comes to um, just everything. I mean, again, it just gets better and better. You're at stages right now where obviously it's not as as exciting and rewarding, but at the same time, it is. You think it's the best it is right now, and it just gets better and better and better. So we do take a lot of trips and whatnot. I mean, the first time we flew with our daughter, which she was like a year and a half, we went to San Diego, right? And then we would just go just Disney. I mean, she went to Disney so many times before she will ever remember. She won't remember those memories, but we will, right? And it's helped shape them. So I say just keep going, living, experiencing life, and just take them along the way, and they're gonna grow, and you're gonna enjoy every aspect. So many things to look forward to.
That's amazing, man. I cannot wait.
So, what do you love most about creating content?
I mean, the thing is, people keep saying like, "Oh, articles are dead and it's all videos now." But for me, I will never stop writing. Right. And this goes to JJ Zachariason, the guy that I look up to. Every award I've ever been nominated for, he's won. Right. So I'll get him. I'll get him at some point. But he says that for him, writing is the basis of everything he does, and that truly is the way it is for me. I go out and I have my articles that I do every week. The spreadsheet that I do every single week for tight end, I start it from scratch rather than having like a whole thing, because I want to go through and actually see the numbers and see how it goes. And then I write my articles every week, and that is the basis of every show I do. If I were to not write and not do my research every week, then I couldn't just go on the microphone because I have nothing to talk about. So it's always the basis of what I do, and I really do enjoy it. Like, it is mixing a couple gifs or memes into an article, trying to, you can't write 5,000 words on a tight ends without mixing on a couple jokes. You know what I mean? Like, no one's reading that. So that's my favorite, is just saying, how do I make this information entertaining for people? And that's what I enjoy the most.
That's great. That's great. Now, with your with that home league that you talked about, do you guys do a live draft? Or are you all live and local?
So we do a live draft, and everyone that can make it goes. But now we got guys that live in, like, Cincinnati, New York, and Philadelphia, all over the place. They've flown in or driven in whenever they can, but otherwise we kind of Skype them in, put them on Zoom or whatever. But yeah, we try to get as many people as possible there for it.
Nice, nice. Now, do you have a favorite last place punishment in fantasy football? Something that you've done, or something that you've seen done that really sparks some thought.
Yeah, well, for us, we just do like the last two, the guys that finished in bottom two by a keg.
Nice.
The One of my buddies has a league where they make the loser take a bus to this is psychotic, dude. They make them take a bus to Buffalo from here, which is it's super far. They can't take their cell phone, and they send them with one of those like disposable cameras, and they have to take a picture at Ralph Wilson Stadium, and then get on the bus and come right back. That's the whole.
Jeez.
No phone, no, which is insane. But my favorite punishment isn't for last place. It's in my dynasty league. With the first dynasty league I ever got in, I could still, again, hometown one, consider it most important. We have a rule that and it gets real dangerous in August. We have a rule that if you have a player on your roster and he gets released by his team in real life, you have to send a video to the chat of you drinking a drink. So shotgun a beer, chug a beer, take a shot, whatever it is. If a player gets cut, you owe us a beer. And in August, that one gets pretty messy. I've definitely dropped guys from my bench. I hear rumors they're about to get released, and I look at the player, I'm like, no, I'm not drinking. I'm cutting you now. So yeah, it is funny.
That's good. And again, to me, that's what everything's about with fantasy, is that experience with the league and bonding and being afraid of this happening and that. It keeps everybody connected. It's where it's at. So how do you guys determine your draft order in your main league?
That one's just random. We just do random for that one.
Yeah.
We got this kid, Nick Skinner, he's a riot, and he does like a big production video for it. So it's pulling the names out of the hat every year. So it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is randomization is obviously the most common way to do it. But if you can do something fun that just creates an event, a little hype up for the draft.
Do you have any good ones for that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I just went through this last summer, 100 different ideas for determining your draft order. In our home league, we've always done like the bingo ball, where I'll do a special event like ahead of the draft, just to get people together, or obviously bring people online to view it, and that just hypes things up for the event. So I always done bingo ball, but there's so many great ideas
for the dynasty league. We do bingo balls, and we have it set up where there's different. It's kind of like the NBA, where there's different number of balls for.
There you go.
And we do the top three that way, just like so. It's like you can't get jumped that far. But if you come in the last, you get jumped by three people, you could end up having the fourth pick. But you're gonna if you come in dead last, your pick's gonna be top four. And with the number of balls in there, it's probably gonna be one or two. But do we just want to kind of discourage tanking a little bit? So that's why we do it. Yeah.
That's pretty. And again, with dynasty, I mean, obviously that most people will do like just reverse order of standings, because they treat it more like a, like a real NFL franchise or whatnot. But it is nice to do something at the bottom of the standings there in dynasty, just to mix it up, discourage a little bit of the tanking, have a little incentive at the end. So I like that. I like that a lot. What's been the most difficult challenge that you've encountered so far in your journey in the fantasy industry?
So the number one challenge for me has always been time. It's always been time. I work at my my strong suit is effort, but my weakness is probably organization. So using your time properly is huge. And when I first started, it was just hard to do that because especially with what we do on Twitter and stuff with all the stupid memes, some days I'll spend half hour on Photoshop and then, you know what I mean? And I realize like,
Yeah.
wait a second, I got to write my articles. I have a show coming up, right? So time is always the number one challenge for me. There's just not enough of it in a day.
Yeah, no, I think that's true for most people. Time management's a huge deal. If you can get a hold of that,
Everything.
you can definitely have a more efficient life for sure. Now, whose content did you consume most prior to you getting into the industry?
So for written content, a bunch of different guys, but I want to mention specifically Player Profiler and Roto Underworld and Fantasy Mansion. Matt Kelly and his show, specifically the show, the Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast that he would do with Nate Liss. That was the first time that I ever was listening to a show and I said to myself, "Oh, wow, this doesn't have to be boring." Right? Like this can be fun. This can be silly. This can be crazy. This can be a little mean at the, you know what I mean? Like you can be funny, you can be mean. Cause like, you listen to a lot of the classic shows, and which obviously like the CBS football was the first one I ever listened to. And that's one of, all-time greats, Dave Richard and Adam Mazer and those guys. But that's like the classic podcast, right? Where it's just like, four guys breaking it down. Whereas like that was the first time I listened to a show and I was like, wow, I was like, these guys are just really saying whatever they want to say. And that kind of shaped, that was the day that I was like, you know what, maybe I will do this because I thought you had to be like, oh, suit and tie, like here we
Yeah.
are. Here we are at ESPN, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I didn't realize that you could just say whatever you want and you could do it however you want and you can be right all the time and it can give you an edge. And like that show, listening to that show, I felt gave me an edge and also showed me that kind of the path that I wanted to take, that I was going to do it however I wanted to do it.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Obviously, he's Matt Kelly's a ton of fun,
Yeah,
exciting, feisty. It's I can see how that would inspire
he's
you
a
to at least kind
monster.
of
Yeah.
open up your doors when it comes
Yeah.
to just different ways you can approach
He's
it.
a New England guy just like me, dude. You know what I mean? We got a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. So yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that was the first one. What about you,
That's
man?
good.
I'm always interested. I know I'm supposed to be the guest here, but I'm always interested, like with you, like what were some of the first content you checked out?
Yeah, so I mean, my story goes back to gosh, like 1995 is when I first started playing fantasy. I was obsessed with sports as a kid. I learned I didn't know anybody who played fantasy back then, and I encountered on Sports Center there was this little story about fantasy football, and I'm like, you know what? I love stats. I love collecting baseball cards. I love playing video games and keeping stats, and this fantasy thing is interesting. So I saw in the sporting news magazine or newspaper, I saw this contest. It was like a fantasy football contest, and I got my mom's credit card. I'm like, hey, there's a buy-in. Could I please do this? Fortunately, she let me play. I actually won. It was like a rotisserie style. I won like first out of 20. I was like, in the top 5 out of 250. There's like big prize pools. I won a ton of money with that.
Yeah.
That's just a kid. Through
That's
my
awesome,
mom,
man.
and I'm like, this game is great. And then I had a part-time job at a Napa auto parts store when I was in school, just stocking shelves and whatnot. And some of the senior guys there had a fantasy league. I picked up on them talking about it, and I'm like, okay, what do I got to do to get in that league? So I would write down little notes, little whatnot, pieces of paper, kind of leave it around their stations so that it would trigger them to say, hey, who's this kid that likes fantasy too? And sure enough, I got in there, and so I dove into that league, played in that league, and this is back in the day. You're dealing with paper.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of content creators that I knew of. It was basically just me, my football knowledge, my love for football that kind of carried me through that. And then once like Yahoo hit, that's when I started my primary
Yes,
league.
yes, yes.
And basically that's when I started chiropractic school, got everybody, started in that first class to join in. I got a bunch of people to join in that league. And that's my primary league to this day. That's where it started. Right. And so even then, it was just me. It was my content. It was my research and whatnot. And then with Yahoo, I started to get aware of, like Andy Behrens and then like Brad Evans and Brandon Funston. And then,
Right.
Eventually kind of found my way to like Matthew Berry. And then everything took off with like the Commissioner of the Year stuff. And so that's where I always did my own rankings every year. I didn't listen to any podcasts. I didn't do a whole lot, but I was, just a fanatical commissioner, loved the game so much, got some notice with that. And then I discovered this whole community on Twitter and whatnot. And so from there, we started listening to the footballers, all the ESPN guys, in addition to the Yahoo people, and just met so many great people through those experiences. And this
That's
whole
awesome.
world's opened up to me, and I love it. And so I just love sharing content creators. I guess my biggest thing deep inside is that most people who play fantasy, love fantasy, were like me, where they didn't know this whole world existed, right? They don't know about Fantasy Alarm or Football Guys or even like the footballers. Most people just kind of get their content through their their host platform. And so to me, it was just like, hey, I want people to love this great game. I know what it's done in my life with friendships and relationships. And so I want people to discover, the deeper love for the game. I want them to find, all the people out there like you and the community that they might not know exist. And because I just think that if they discover folks like you and other content creators, that their fantasy experience is going to be better. And I guess that's where my passion
It's
comes from.
beautiful, man. And that honestly, I've been thinking a lot about that we need to focus on spreading the game. That should be the big focus for all of us instead of arguing every single day. It's like, if you can go out, my challenge to everybody this offseason, go out, and whether you create the league or not, and whether you're in the league or not, get somebody to play, man. Set them up for underdog or something, because there's so many ways that you don't have to be in a league with 12 people now, right? Like, you can go out and play underdog. You can go out and play on these
Yeah.
sites, FFPC if you want. So just spread the game. It's good for all of us, right? So definitely, man, I love that.
And that's, I mean, again, that's why I created Fantasy Football Unlimited. It's basically just a resource for all the different creators out there. We can kind of provide links to everybody out there. I just want people to discover the game because, like I said, at the end of the day, the fantasy league it supersedes the game of football to me.
Right.
It's one of those things where, the more people stay connected. I mean, it's a crazy world. Like, it's been a crazy world, a lot of chaos, a lot of negativity. For me, I know that fantasy leagues are fun. It keeps people connected. It just brightens people's days. So I just want people to find the game, find the
Huge,
love,
man.
and through people like you, I think lives get changed in a positive way. I know a lot of people joke around about how, well, we're just talking about a game. It's not that serious. It's not a, even like a JJ will say, hey, I'm just a fantasy analyst. Well, and I think that it goes beyond that. I think that you're impacting
Does.
lives, and helping people enjoy the game of football more, and people, and relationships more. So that's
No,
my
for real.
story.
Dude, I love that, man. I love that too, because it's true though. It's like, I consider the people that I interact with online, like in 2023, those are my friends, dude. You know what I mean? Like, people would, it used to be a joke or whatever. Oh, so and so. Oh, I have friends that are all online or whatever. But it's like, dude, if I'm talking to people every single day about something we both love, like, those are my friends. So I consider the people that I interact with, like, just people just know that, like, if you're commenting once a day, once a week, I see those usernames, I see those profile pictures, I know the the faces when I see them, right? I respond, especially to the people I like. I like your tweets. Like, I see that stuff, dude, and I consider a lot of those people friends. Honestly, even if we don't DM or whatever, like, doesn't matter. Like, there's some great people out there that I interact with every single day, man, and I'm thankful to have them. Because it's like, I think about that sometimes. In the word, no, it's like, no matter what happens in my life here or at home or whatever, like, I've got thousands of people online that I can go to and talk to, and about something that we all love. So, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I'm sure you feel the same way. Just so thankful for the expo and for Bob Long and in
Right.
what he's put together, because it's really brought people together. People that are connected without even meeting each other in person. And it's definitely been a game changer for the fantasy football community. So highly recommend that. Obviously for aspiring analysts, people that want to get involved in the community, or again, just people that love the game and want to hear from their favorite analysts. The Expo is a great place to go. What advice do you have? I know you've dropped some advice already for aspiring analysts or people that want to get in the industry. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, so I can only give advice on the platform, and I'm really not that good at YouTube. Like I'm good at talking, but I'm not good at like the actual platform itself, right? Like our producers are great at it. But for Twitter and Reddit, my two pieces of advice. One is that if you're going to create content, you can post it. Just think about this. When I think about 1995, there was no place where you could write an article and post it and guarantee that people that are interested in that topic will read it. They will read it. Like if you do a self post on Reddit today, if you do a write up on, 500 words on a player and you post it on there, it will get read. It will get read by me. I read virtually everything that's on there. So
Wow.
it will get read, and you can post it for free and you can get feedback. That's the first thing. And if you do enough of those, like if you do those and you turn around and email me at andrew.cooper at Bettor Sports Network, Bettor, and you say, hey, check out these 5 posts I did, and they all get a bunch of upvotes and a bunch of positive comments, you know what? We're going to look at that and say, hey, why don't you post this on our website? Why don't you post this on Razzball? Why don't you post this? You know what I mean? Like anywhere out there, like they're looking at that and they're looking for content creators. So there is right now a way for you. I know you're going to be doing it for free, and karma on Reddit doesn't matter, but you'll find out whether you can write stuff that helps people or not. On Twitter, my advice would be this: start treating your Twitter account as your brand. Come up with some basic rules for yourself, right? Like my rules are pretty simple, but I adhere to them. No, I don't talk about religion. I don't talk about politics. I don't swear if I can avoid it, right? Like basic rules, and start treating it like your brand. Put up a profile picture that is recognizable. I changed mine earlier this year and people revolted. They were like, I'm not reading any of your content until you bring back purple guy. So I had to switch it. I had to switch mine back, dude. Put up a banner picture, right? Like treat it like it's your resume, right? Because at the end of the day, people will read a tweet of yours, but nobody follows anybody. For the most part, nobody follows anybody just off a tweet. They see a tweet that you did, and then they click your profile, and then they decide if they're going to follow you. So treat that as your resume. Those are my 2 pieces of advice for the two websites that I have the most success.
Great advice. Great advice. Now, when it comes to the actual game, 2023 has been a wild season thus far. What are your impressions so far this season?
Oof. I mean, the thing is, dude, every year we do this. Every year we do this. We're all off season. We have all these preconceived notions. We think it has to be this way. It has to be the way that we imagine it. And it never is. It never is. And that's the beauty. So I love the chaos. I embrace the chaos. The one thing that every year that really drives me nuts is the injuries, man. I would just love if we could shut them off somehow, especially it makes you understand what, like, people always say, oh, they're doing flag football, they're doing this. When the quarterback gets hurt, man, it messes everything up. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, and even when dealing with the Bijan situation, like the league is looking into that because you got to disclose it because of people like us, right? It's like it messes everything up. So yeah, that's the one thing that stinks. But I mean, I'm once again having a lot of fun getting stuff right, getting stuff wrong, and that's what it's all about.
It is chaos, and it's true. I mean, the navigating a fantasy football season is where it's at. Depth, managing your fab or waiver wire. I mean, those are the kind of things. Adapting to the chaos is what wins fantasy football championships.
When you and I first started, it was a lot easier to play. It was a lot easier. We had less resources, but remember how easy running back was back then?
Oh,
it was the best. It was the best. Priest Holmes got every single carry, and then when he got hurt, Larry Johnson got every single carry. It was like, you know what I mean? It was nice and easy. Back then, like 2000, 2001, my entire first round was running backs, right? Maybe a quarterback, but like that was the way. And then, but to be honest, like we complain about that, but with the rotations and the formations and stuff nowadays, it makes it more interesting for us as analysts. There's a lot more to look at.
Certainly, it keeps us on our toes. Back in the day, it was, every running back was a bell cow. It just
Oh
depended
yeah,
on, the talent level, right? It was pretty straightforward. But you're right. There's so much more to adapt to and to manage. So it keeps us on our toes. At every
sure.
level of this game, you gotta stay on it. So when it comes to what you're seeing the rest of the season, are there a couple quarterbacks that you think are going to have a strong finish?
Yeah, so I'll give you one high end one and one low end, or one low end one kind of right because it's like it, we want to give people a little bit of advice, and I can't just say, "Hey, go get Jalen Hurts." But the thing
Yeah.
with Jalen Hurts, it's like they're not going to change the rules now, right? So, and he's scoring a touchdown every game. I think he has 6 touchdowns in 7 games now, and every time there's a pass interference in the end zone, that's a touchdown for Jalen Hurts, right? Every
Yeah.
time a running back gets tackled, if they give a handoff to either running back, he gets tackled at the 2. That's a touchdown for Jalen Hurts. So if you go out and get that particular player, then I feel like you got to do it. I for kind of a low end option, I personally think that Matthew Stafford is a guy that with Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua, I've gone and watched. I'm not a huge film guy, you know that, but when you watch the way Stafford's throwing the football right now, it's I've seen some of the best passes I've ever seen from him this year. He is throwing like he threw an absolute rope at Tutu Atwell that Tutu didn't catch like 2 weeks ago, but one of the best throws I've ever seen him. Like it was an absolute laser. He's like the way he's fitting balls in at the second level is crazy right now. And I think Matthew Stafford's a guy that people are sleeping on. That at the end of the day, I don't know if there's going to be that much of a difference between the Kirk Cousins and the Jared Goffs of the world than a Matt Stafford.
Yeah, obviously with Stafford, with those weapons, he has got a high floor, and he does look like he's rewound a couple years.
Right?
It's
Yeah, it looks
he's
great,
pretty
man.
impressive.
Yeah.
How about a couple of running backs that you're looking to acquire or looking to have a strong finish next handful of weeks?
Yeah, so I think the cat's probably out of the bag right now on Travis Etienne. But which kind of unprecedented. You see this every once in a while with running backs his age, where teams will just go and say, you know what, we got a prime guy here under contract. Let's just give him every touch, right? And it ends up being a mistake in the long run a lot of the times. But like Christian McCaffrey just played every snap. You can't get Christian McCaffrey. Tony
Yeah.
Pollard, you might be able to get because the little bye week discount where people look at the stats and they're like, oh, he's what is he, RB 13 right now? But he's still Tony Pollard. Travis Etienne with the snaps he's getting, Tank Bigsby's not even playing double digit snaps. Like if you can get that guy still, then I would do it. For lower end, I'm trying to acquire Joe Mixon, and you probably have a 2-week window because he's got the 49ers this week. So his price isn't going to get more expensive after this week, right?
Yeah.
Doc. So I'm saying go get Mixon now, deal with the down week here, or get him next week if he has struggles this week, because I think that the Bengals aren't just going to lie down. And I think Joe Burrow is a good player. I think Chase Higgins is going to come back. I think this offense is going to be looking good, and he's the primary back for a good offense. I've seen LeGarrette Blount score 18 touchdowns just because he was the guy on a good offense. So I think Joe Mixon sitting at what, RB 23 might. I think he's sitting at like back end RB2, but he might even be RB3 range right now. Like I
Yeah.
think Joe Mixon could easily over the second half be an RB1 just simply because he's the starting every down back for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, definitely a guy that you could probably acquire without nearly as much compensation as you may
Right.
have once thought. So I like that. How about a couple wide receivers you're looking to have a strong finish to 2023?
Yeah, for the high end one that I trust explicitly is Keenan Allen, man. Like if you can get Keenan Allen, because I don't know why. It's probably the injuries, right? I mean, but historically, some of the injuries he's had, like he had like a lacerated kidney, like that's not a repeating injury. It's the
Yeah.
hamstrings you worry about, and again, you know more about it than I, Doc. But the last year when he came back over the last 8 games, he was a wide receiver 2 behind only Justin Jefferson. And this year, consistently, week to week to week basis, he's been a wide receiver 1 because of the volume he's getting. Mike Williams is not walking back through that door, and it's Josh Palmer and it's Quinn Johnson. and Justin Herbert's good, and Kellen Moore is firing the ball around. So I think that he should be ranked. Like, obviously, Tyreek Hill is on another planet. He's hurt right now. But I don't see why Keenan Allen should be ranked too far below guys like Stephon Diggs or CeeDee Lamb or Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's got more fantasy points than Amon-Ra St. Brown. So
yeah,
Keenan Allen's a guy that I'm trying to – if I can make trades where I trade up to get him, or even trade away Tyreek Hill to get him in something else, then I feel pretty good about that.
nice,
For a lower end guy, the guy, and he's a hot commodity. Probably he might be available in some leagues. There's some shallower leagues where you get him, but Josh Downs, man. This offseason, I brought on Brandon Huffman to a show to talk. He's a kind of a legendary college, high school to college scout, and he played tight end. So I was like, I got to get Huff on, and we'll talk tight ends. And we did a whole show where we just talked tight ends, right? Or a whole segment where we just talked tight ends. But throughout that segment, he mentioned, without even being prompted, we brought up what do you look for in guys? And he was like, I look for guys that just have it. He's like, before you get into 40 time and stats and height and this and that, they have to have it. They have to have that special something. And example of a guy that has it is Josh Downs. And this was, in May, right? He's like, this guy's a dog. He goes, his brother, who's playing, I think he plays safety for Alabama right now. He goes, he's a dog. He might even be better. So look out for Caleb Downs. He goes, this kid, Josh Downs, is going to be the dude. And right now with Gardner Minshew, even though Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce play the full snap shares, and Josh Downs is actually, so Pierce played 70 snaps this week. Pittman played 68. Downs only played 50. He's the preferred target for Gardner Minshew. So he's got that floor. And there's always the possibility that down the stretch, they just say, hey, you know what? We're going to give Downs here. We're going to give him the Keenan Allen treatment. We're going to give him the Cooper Kupp treatment. We're going to give him the Chris Godwin treatment, where he plays slot in 3 wide, but in 2 wide receiver sets, he stays on the field. Last year, Paris Campbell did that over Alec Pierce. So it's a real possibility. So right now, you can go get a guy that's very safe that also hasn't even hit his peak yet. So yeah, Josh Downs, I'm feeling real good about right now.
I like that. Now, how about from the tight end whisperer? Couple tight ends that you're looking to
I haven't really looked at tight end yet. I'll tell you what, for the high ends, man, so I go through and I talk about behind the scenes numbers, right? What I look at is I look at the usage especially. And so we're looking at route participation, target share, pass block percentage, right? And that's a key one that people don't look at, because if a player is blocking on like 10, 15% of his plays, that's another 10 routes he didn't run. So people look at Cole Kmet and they're like, what the hell happened this week? Cole Kmet played 63 snaps, right? But because they played Max Crosby, he had to stay in and block on 8 pass plays. That's 8 routes where might as well be on the sideline if you're not running a route. So that's what we look at. Darren Waller in turn, and we look at wide receiver snap percentage, which is huge. Wide receiver snap percentage is huge, not only because you get it's easier to run high A dot routes. You get a better release. You get matchups versus corners sometimes. Bring linebackers out there with you. Those are great matchups. The other thing that people forget that's super underrated is that sometimes when the tight end plays wide receiver, they have a tight end in line and a wide receiver comes out. So when Travis Kelce plays out wide and Noah Gray plays 60% of the snaps, that's just another wide receiver that's not even on the field, right? So those snaps are huge. Darren Waller is a player that we look at Travis Kelce, we look at Mark Andrews, people look at TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta. Darren Waller in all those categories is tippy top of the league, man. And, just in week 6, he got 2 end zone targets. You saw the end of the game, right? Where it's like pass interference in the end zone, and then they held him again and they didn't call it. And then the next week he scores the touchdown. Darren Waller is a guy that leads his team in targets. He leads his team in routes. He gets an end zone target every single week. I see no reason why he shouldn't be ranked up there with the big dogs. So yeah, I'm feeling real good about it. The other guy is the hottest name this week, Dalton Kincaid. And we've been on him all year. We knew what the possibility was, right? The idea is that rookies start off slow at all positions, right? And I even wrote about this last week. I said, I'm not dropping Dalton Kincaid. You can in your leagues if you have to. I completely understand that, but I'm not dropping him because I watched Amon-Ra St. Brown do nothing for 10 weeks. Then people got hurt. His role changed. And then it was wheels up and he never went back in the bottle. this guy, Dalton Kincaid, this year, Dawson Knox, according to Pro Football Focus, Dawson Knox has 15 targets. Sorry, he has 27 targets. He's caught 15 of them. 15 of 27. Dalton Kincaid has gotten 26 targets. He's caught 25. This guy catches everything, brother. He catches everything. Well, if you have a guy, this is what confuses me sometimes. It confuses me like crazy in college football. If you have a guy that is catching every single pass, he's that only one pass thrown his way he hasn't caught. Why aren't you just throw that guy the ball over and over and over again until he doesn't catch it? Right. In college football, it confuses me because I'll look at these games, I'll look at the stats after a game, and I'll be like, this guy ran for 9.7 yards a carry. How did this team lose? Like, how did this guy get 20 carries and 9.7 yards a carry? And how do you lose? Isn't that a first down every time?
Yeah.
Murray? Like, what are we doing? So, but yeah, Dalton Kincaid, now that Dawson Knox having wrist surgery tonight, we're going to see him in full, right? And he had eight targets and 8 receptions last game. That's a guy that he should be on 0 waiver wires right now. 0, because he was drafted ahead of Sam Laporta, ahead of Michael Mayer, right? Like ahead of Luke Musgrave. And now he's getting the opportunity. So that's a guy.
Here we go. Wheels up.
Wheels
I love it.
Up. Let's go, baby.
Now, what you mentioned earlier, when it comes to the future of the tight end position, how excited are you about Brock Bowers' potential in the NFL? Obviously, landing spot, all that stuff is huge. But I mean, we're hearing a lot of things. Kind of Kyle Pitts like, but in regards to all the hype, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fired up. The thing is with rookie tight ends, and I've written extensively about this, and that's why I was borderline mean about to the analysts that said that rookie tight ends can't break out, and that's why we can't draft them. I think it's lazy. I think it's lazy analysis, and I think it's lazy because I've spent hours writing up why it is, and it's like people don't want to read it, and it's just easier to say, oh, I can't draft Sam Laporta because Eric Ebron wasn't good. It's like, just think for 1 second about that. Why would we judge this one player based on what that player did, right? So for me, there's 2 things for rookie tight ends that we need. Number one, they need to be the best pass catching tight end on their team, which you would think would be easy for these guys. But Cole Kmet, just the fact that Jimmy Graham was there, right? You say you're the tight end coach and you look around the room and you say, who's going to run the routes? Who's going to block? Well, you're not going to have Jimmy Graham block, are you? Right. Yeah. So it's perfect example of Zach Ertz with Trey McBride. Zach Ertz ain't blocking. So Trey McBride could be a better pass catcher than Ertz at that point. Dallas Goedert was arguably a better pass catcher than Ertz, but Goddard's one of the better blocking tight ends in the league. So when you're divvying up the roles, that's the problem, right? So we need Brock Bowers to be the number 1 pass catcher on the team. Next, we need him to be a top 2 target on the team. If he's not a top 2 target, the vast majority of difference-making tight ends in fantasy football are top 2 targets. So it's all about landing spot. That's why I love Kincaid, because I don't love Gabe Davis. I think Kincaid could be a top 2 target behind Diggs, right? So Brock Bowers there's no chance Bowers gets, knock on wood. There is one scenario. I don't even want to mention it. I will mention it though. What if his former coach from Georgia wants him and Todd Monken or that, right? He goes to the Ravens. That would be bad. But in most cases, Brock Bowers is immediately going to be a top 2 target on the team. So we just have to hope he lands somewhere that doesn't have high-end wide receivers. Like, I would be disappointed for next year. I would be disappointed if he landed with the Bengals and they still had T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. But long-term, it would be good. But I mean, it's such a tough game. But yeah, I'm excited for him. There's a couple other names. Again, I do my research after the season's done when all the dust is settled. But Colston Loveland from Michigan, a name to keep an eye on. Also, great name, Colston Loveland. That's pretty good. That's a good football name. So yeah, I'm excited for it, man.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Again, the tight end.
We're back.
Tight ends are changing, right? Again, this class that we've had has been great. I had Andy Behrens on right before the season started, and he just would not stop talking about Sam Laporta. So
good.
It's exciting. There's things are changing. Less leagues out there are gonna consider dropping the tight end position because that's for leagues that aren't serious. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for this episode. I think it's been great. Definitely, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to share before we close things out?
That's it, man. That's it. I guess the one thing I would give for advice to people out there, the number one mistake I see revolves around those positions where people go out in the draft. One of my buddies does it every year. And if he just watched my shows, he would hear me talking about his teams. He goes out and he starts his draft with First 10 picks, all running backs and wide receivers. And then all year long on waivers, all he adds are running backs and wide receivers. And his team is always pretty good. And he takes a bullet train to third place because all year long he starts the QB 13 and the tight end 15 and the whatever defense he ends up with. He doesn't care. And because he doesn't take the time to use his bench to improve the positions where his team is weak, he just goes bullet train to third place. So you look at your team. It's okay to have 2 tight ends. It's okay to have 2 quarterbacks. In my big hometown league, I have 2 defenses right now because I need help at defense. I need to plan. So it's okay. 2 kickers might be stretching it, but hey, I'll hold Justin Tucker through a bye week, so I will have 2 kickers sometimes. So
yeah,
it's okay to do that. Use your bench to improve the spots where you are weak, and oftentimes that is quarterback and tight end.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And last thing I'll ask, just regarding Travis Kelce, like it's incredible what he's done. It's incredible at the age he's doing it. How long is he going to keep going? This is incredible.
I'll tell you, man, there's basically 3 guys that have had 1,000-yard seasons in this age range, and one of them you would never guess. He's old. Well, I bet you could guess the other one. So try and guess. There's 2 of them. There's 3 total. Kelsey's 1.
Yeah, I'll go Tony Gonzalez.
So Tony Gonzalez is the one that's easy to guess. And I think that guy might actually be a vampire. Every time I see him on TV, he looks better and better. Like he looks like he can play incredible right now. Yeah. What a handsome guy. I'm just like, I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, why is it Tony should get back out there? If Jimmy Graham's playing, Tony could probably play. But
and he was sensational in his prime too. I mean, his whole career was a prime, but he was sensational. Now, so this next guy, is he a Hall of Famer?
You'll never guess it. No, random dude. I'll tell you. I'll just give you a million hints. He only had one 1,000-yard season, and it was at age 34.
Really?
He played in like the 70s. I think he played in the either 70s or 80s. He played for the Eagles.
Okay, I don't think I'm gonna bring that to the table. Who do you got?
No, it's impossible, dude. So this guy's name is Pete Retzlaff.
I wasn't gonna bring that.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I was like, you're not. I should have just said it, but yeah, Pete. So that's how rare it is, though. Like this guy back in like the cigarettes at halftime era players. Right?
What a stud, huh?
Yeah. I put pictures of him in my article. I'm always like when I mention him because he is just you have to mention the outliers, but like you look at the pictures of him, it's such an old timey looking dude too.
We got to get that guy on the podcast if he's still around.
For sure. I know we should check in, man. He does like in his picture, he's the era of guys that look like they sold car insurance all day and then they put on the shoulder pads on the weekend and played football, right? Like just crazy. But yeah, those are the only guys at his age doing it. And honestly, Travis Kelce's success is a big reason why people get rid of the tight end position. It truly is because because he's just so much better than everyone else that if it wasn't for him, people probably wouldn't be getting rid of the position. You know what I mean? It's like it's very strange. But there are difference making tight ends every year. Every year, it's not just Kelce. There's always another guy. I mean, Mark Andrews has a top 5 tight end season of all time, right? Yeah. Sam Laporta, I could argue Sam Laporta was the most valuable draft pick that could have been made, right? Because if you win yin and yang tight end like we do, and you took him as your second tight end, think of the positional scarcity that you got from like 15th round, 16th round. Like I could argue that was the best pick you could have possibly made.
Yeah. And everyone could have got him because people were talking, right? It's an easy ad to add one of those, those tight end flyers at the end of the draft. So if you don't have him, it's on you.
Right. And I tell you, every year I say, the more people that do yin and yang tight end like us, people say, oh, I'll just add those guys off waivers. You can't add them because I'm drafting 2. And the second guy I draft is always the highest risk, highest upside guy. So we were taking Mark Andrews. We were taking Darren Waller. We were taking Sam Laporta, and we took Evan Engram last year. Like, those guys aren't out there anymore because it's a new era. The era of some people pick up a magazine in 2004 and read you can only draft 1 tight end, and they never stop thinking that way. Those people get left behind.
Absolutely. Well, man, I could talk to you all day long. We got to stop at some point. So tell the audience where they can find you.
Yeah. So easiest way to find my stuff at Coop letter A Fiasco on Twitter. I retweet everything I'm in. I'll retweet this show when it's up. Every show, every article. If you just follow me there, you'll get everything. On Reddit, Coop, there it is. But again, like everything there's nothing I post on Reddit that I don't post on Twitter too. So you get it all there. And if you just want to go back and hit the backlog of my stuff, just Google Fantasy Alarm Andrew Cooper. Comes right up.
There we go. That's the man, Andrew Cooper. Thank you so much for joining me, my friend. Cannot wait to see you at the Expo in August, maybe at FSGA in January or in February. And looking forward to see what's next for you.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on, dude. Great format, great show.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.